Now we are starting on chapter 3. So we're going to start with chapter 3a, response and explanatory variables. Now in chapters 1 and 2, we've only been looking at univariate data. Univariate, the prefix uni means one. So univariate data means data with only one variable. For example, if you were looking at test results only, test results is the only variable, so it's univariable data. Chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6 look at bivariate data. The prefix bi meaning two, so there's two variables, and you're usually looking at how they compare to one another. So an example is if you're looking at test results compared to the amount of time people spent studying, you've got test results and time as your two variables. So from now on, we're looking at bivariate data. Now, when looking at bivariate data, it's important to be able to figure out what type of variables your two variables are. Firstly, we've got explanatory variables. Usually shown as EV. And we've got response variables, which are RV. Now, how do we know what's what? The explanatory variable is the variable that predicts the value of the response variable. Now, if you did science in middle school, you may know these as two different names. I like to think of the explanatory variable as your independent variable. And the response variable as the dependent variable. If you're still not sure what they are, I can define the dependent variable as, I guess, the predictor. And it's usually categorical. So it's usually a categorical variable. Now, the dependent variable is what is measured. So usually one of your data, one of your variables is going to be something that is measured, and that will be your response variable. Best way to explain this is through an example. We've got, does the time it takes a student to get to school depend on their mode of travel? The two variables we've got here is time and mode of travel. These are our two variables. We have to figure out which one is our explanatory variable and which one is the response variable. Now, I think there's two ways we can approach this. We can try to fit these two variables into this set of sentence structure and see which way it works best. So we've got one of the variables is going to predict the value of the other variable. I think the best way this fits is that the mode of travel will predict the time it takes to get to school. So mode of travel will predict the time. Therefore, mode of travel is our explanatory variable and the time is our response variable. The other way to do it is to think of these as independent or dependent variables. Our independent variable is the predictor, and it's usually categorical, not always. I'll show you an example where it's not, but it's usually categorical. Time is going to be a numerical data, whereas mode of travel is categorical. Now let's see if this still fits if we consider dependent variables Dependent variables is something that we measure. Time is a measurement, whereas mode of travel is not a measurement. You can't measure mode of travel because it's categorical. So again, you could have time is measured, therefore it is your response variable, and mode of travel is the predictor, so it's your explanatory variable. In this example, we have, does the cost of heating a home depend on the type of fuel? So the way the question is worded is that we are suggesting that the type of fuel is going to predict the cost of heating a home. So if the type of fuel is predicting the cost, then the type of fuel is our predictor, which is our explanatory variable, and the cost is our response variable. Now in this one, cost was numerical data, which is getting measured, and type of fuel is categorical, which would have been another way to distinguish that type of fuel was your explanatory variable and cost was your response variable. Now in this last one, can we predict someone's height from their wrist size? So it's asking, will someone's wrist size predict their height? So can wrist size predict height? That's the way the question is worded. Even though both these variables can be measured, it's asking wrist size predicting height. So we know, because of the way the question's worded, the wrist size is our explanatory variable and the height is our response variable. Now it is important in these situations to look at how the question is worded, because here we've got, can we predict wrist size from someone's height? We've got the same variables, but because of the way the question's worded, now we're seeing whether someone's height is able to predict their wrist size. Now, the height variable is the predictor, which is the explanatory variable, and the wrist size is the response variable. So it's very important to read the question and try to understand it before you assign these variables.